This is Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, and today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016, and the title of this rant will be Self-Made Billionaires Dump Trump. So Trump's going downhill real fast right now. Let's just take a look at what's going on in the last 10 days in terms of some billionaires who are not really in favor of Trump anymore. We'll start the first one with Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Grew up in modest means, did a whole lot of hustling when he was young, bartended, did a number of other things, got involved in the computer hardware and software business, early 80s or maybe early 90s when that was just really taking off. Sold for about $5 billion. It's diversified quite a bit. He's on Shark Tank, which I really like. But even he admits, that when he goes after a deal, he's looking big time, long term, and if he's going to invest in something, he's going to have to get a big return. And he had, even before he came out against Trump this week or last week, he had talked a number of times about how when Trump would go into Trump steaks, Trump water, whatever else Trump went into, his point was, basically someone else is making that stuff, and you're just putting your name on it, so it's a licensing agreement. How much money are you really making on that? And what Cuban was saying is, you got to own something, you got to develop it, you got to make it, and then when you decide to sell it or whatever, you've made a lot of money. And that's what he looks at in terms of when he's on Shark Tank doing those types of deals. What is best for me in terms of making an investment long term? And can this be a nationwide business that I can invest in, not something that's just some peddly little thing? And Cuban was also critical of Trump in terms of what's it called, The Apprentice. So, but the big thing is that, if you're a multi-billionaire, if you're a billionaire, you're making so much stinking money that the amount of money that you'd get paid to be on TV is like minuscule. And of course, after they dumped Trump from The Apprentice, we found out that he didn't even own the show. I don't even think he was a producer of the show. He was just a star of the show. So if you've got someone that's worth billions of dollars, what are they running around for with this little crappy show that's only making them a couple $1 million at tops, possible a week, and that's only for a portion of the year, and they don't get any of the other profits from it because they didn't produce it or own it. So, in fact, even Lawrence O'Donnell pointed that out a number of times, and that he'll never take anyone to court because people would say that he really isn't worth that much, because if he did, then he'd have to open up his books and it'd prove that he wasn't worth that much. So that was the first one. Cuban came out. Michael Bloomberg came out. Michael Bloomberg owns Bloomberg News, etc. Basically, he was an electrical engineer. He got involved in business. He got involved in Wall Street. He got laid off in 1981. He got a number of millions of dollars. He reinvested back into getting Wall Street vital information on a quick basis. That basically set up his news service. That basically set up all this kind of stuff. He went from being a Democrat to a Republican so that he could be ran for mayor of New York, was mayor of New York for 12 years, and I think he's an independent now. He spoke at the Democratic Convention. Again, he was from modest means, not necessarily growing up with a heck of a lot of money. And, he dumped Trump and basically said he knows a con when he sees one. So there's, and of course, he was in New York, running New York. So he knew what Trump was up to a lot of the time. Not that they had business dealings together or anything like that. But Trump would open up his mouth, and of course, it'd be something that you'd see all the time on the news. And Bloomberg came out again vehemently against Trump, so much so that he was willing to expose himself by going to the Democratic National Convention to say that. Now, he's got nothing to worry about because he's worth about $50 billion. I think Cuban's worth about $10 billion, something like that. So he came out, and then just yesterday, Meg Whitman came out, Meg Whitman, again, someone from modest means, I think she went to Princeton, etc., has been involved in a number of big companies, Disney companies. She was involved in eBay. Now she's the head CEO of Hewlett Packard. She is and has been a big-time Republican. She ran for Senate in California, I think 2010, against Barbara Boxer, spent millions of her own money, doing this thing, and still lost by, I think, a considerable amount. And of course, she was adamant that Trump just is useless, that he doesn't even closely represent the ideals of the Republican Party. And of course, his misogyny against women, etc., is just too much for all of them. The last one I want to bring up is the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, the second richest man in the world, maybe the third, worth 50 to 60 billion. He's already said he's going to give almost all of his money to charity when he dies. He's going to pass it on through to the Gates Foundation. Again, Warren Buffett started out as a stockbroker. I don't know if he started a stockbroker, but he was from Omaha, Nebraska, up until a couple of years ago, right when his wife was dying. He was still living in the same house that he bought supposedly in 1956. He still did his workings from a rotary phone when he was at home. And of course, he did things the old-fashioned way, like they said at Smith Barney. He earned them. He invested in companies. He was very shrewd about what he invested in. And that he invested for the long term. And what was the other thing is that if you had invested $10,000 in Berkshire Hathaway in 1956, you would have beaten every other conceivable opportunity that you might have had to invest that money in, whether it be the Dow Jones, whether it be the different stock indexes, whether it be a whole heck of a lot of real estate land, that for years and years and years, Berkshire Hathaway, and one share of stock was like $18,000 a couple of years ago. I don't know what the heck it is right now. Nothing that I could afford. But he, again, came vehemently out against Trump, pointed out that he has also being audited, that nothing happens to you if you get audited, and you open up about that. So we have 4 billionaires, self-made billionaires, who are adamantly against Trump. Now, again, the rank and file, they could care less. Most of them don't even know these people. So that's not necessarily the biggest deal possible, but it's really, really setting the stage, because Trump has so much imploded in the last 2 weeks. A congressman came out and said the Republican congressman came out and said he was going to vote for Clinton. Yesterday or the day before, Trump basically dissed Paul Ryan and John McCain. Basically, he's saying he wasn't necessarily even endorsing them. So Trump was made by the Republican Party. He did exactly what the Republican Party wanted to do, but he wasn't necessarily a real Republican or a real conservative. We'll see that he really wants to do this for himself, but he seems to be imploding quite a bit. And maybe this is the tip of the iceberg with these billionaires and some others. Most of the implosion probably will be from Trump himself. And the thing is, can he right the ship a little bit? Can he move it back? I don't think he can move it back. There's a certain point, when you hit a point of diminishing returns, that your shtick doesn't stick anymore. There's nothing about your shtick that makes any sense anymore. Everything that you had done to get the kind of attention that you had wanted was only geared for that 35 or 40% of the electorate who are going to be behind a Republican candidate anyway. It's not going to stick with anybody else. And of course, we're seeing that movement in terms of Hillary heading straight up and him heading straight down. So tip of the iceberg, point of diminishing returns, sayonara, hasta la vista. This could be the end of Trump. And of course, I'll bring up one thing. This was really funny when Obama doubled down and basically indicated that Trump was not worthy of being elected president. He was not qualified of being elected president. He basically forced Paul Ryan's hands in terms of how can Ryan agree with Obama by saying Trump isn't qualified to be president. So, they have to go against anything that Obama does because he's Obama, so to speak. So all of these things are in play. All of these things came in the last couple of days. It's gone downhill since the Republican convention for Trump. And I think within the next 2 weeks, it could be pretty clear, that Trump is headed to a point where there's no possible way he can win the election.